So other two properties are the dynamic binding and the message passing. So as I told in the previous classes that dynamic binding is nothing but the the dynamic binding is nothing but the work which is done during the runtime. It is always called as a dynamic binding. Binding refers to the linking of a procedure call to the code to be executed. Okay. So in response to the call. Dynamic binding is also known as late binding. That means that the code associated with the given procedure is called not known until the time of the call at a runtime. It is associated with the polymorphism and the inheritance. A function call associated with a polymorphic reference depends on the dynamic type of that reference. Okay, so that is a dynamic binding, right? So it is not known until the runtime. It is good. The particular function is going to get executed. Okay, that we call it as the polymorph, that is sorry, dynamic binding. So when you come to the message passing, the as I told that during the objects and the classes, the member functions and the objects are going to communicate with each other by sending and receiving the messages. Okay, so that is a the an object oriented program consists of set of objects that communicate with each other. The process of programming in an object oriented language involves the following basic steps. First thing is we have to create a classes that define the objects and their behavior. Second one is we have to create a object from the classes definition, and third is we have to establish the communication among the objects. Okay, so we have to create objects that define the objects and their behavior, and we have to create objects from the class definitions, and we have to establish the communication between the methods and the methods and the objects. Okay, that is what the object communications with one another by sending and receiving the information much the same way as people pass messages to one another. The concept of message passing makes it easier to talk about building a systems that directly model or simulate their real world counterparts. A message for an object is a request for the execution of the procedure, and therefore will invoke a function or procedure in the receiving objects that generates the desired result. Message passing involves specifying the name of the object, the name of the function, and the information to be sent. Objects have a life cycle. They can be created and destroyed. Communication with object is feasible as long as that objects are going to be available in a program. Okay, so that we call it as the message passing. Say, whenever we are going to study about the any features, new features to any programming language, we must understand their the benefits, that is advantages of using those features, and the applications of the those features, right? So let me know what do you mean by the advantages of this object oriented programming concept. Say, the object oriented programming offers several benefits to both the program designer and the user. Object orientation contributes to the solution of many problems associated with the development and quality of the software products. The new technology, whatever we are going to use, is going to promise us a greater programmer productivity, better quality of the software, and lesser maintenance cost. Okay, so this object oriented programming is a new concept, okay, which we are using. This new concept which is going to reduce the writing of the code, and debugging of the code, right? And make the execution faster, and the programmer productivity, and it leads to a better quality user friendly software, and they will have the lesser maintenance also, less maintenance cost also, right? Very important is they make the user friendly softwares. Okay, so the principle or the very important advantages of this object oriented programming is through inheritance we can eliminate redundant code and extend the use of existing classes. We can build programs from the standard working model that communicate with one another rather than having to start writing the code from scratch. This leads to saving of development time and higher productivity. Okay, this leads to saving of development time and higher productivity. The principle of data hiding helps the programmer to build secure program that cannot be invaded by the code in other parts of the program. It is possible to have multiple instances of an object to coexist without any interferences. It is possible to map objects in the problem domain to those in the program. It is very easy to partition the work in a project based on the objects. Okay, the object oriented system can be easily upgraded from the small program to the larger one. How means? Because of the flexibility of increasing the size, that is the extending the program, extensible, the programs are extensible. We can extend the small program into the large program. You take one example, I'll tell you. Say I am going to create one student basic information system, right? So basic information means what is the student will have. That student will have the name, okay, USN, and the age, address. You think this is a basic and the branch. This is the basic information of any student, right? Now what I am going to do is I am going to create a so using the same basic information of a student, I am going to extend his academics, and I am going to extend his extracurricular activities. I am going to extend his the the performance of that student. So what I am doing? I am converting that small information into a larger one. Okay, small to a large system. I can create the big problem. I can create a big solution to the problem, right? So we call that is the object oriented system can be easily upgraded from small to large system. Message passing techniques for communication between the objects makes the interface descriptions with external systems much simpler. It is very easy for us to interface the descriptions with the external systems, so in a very easy manner. Okay, so this data hiding property of the programmer to build a secure program. So what it does not allow the other user to access the data which is declared under the private section of the class. Okay, that cannot be invaded by the code of the other part of the program. Okay, only authorized persons can access that particular data which is present. Then the as I told, due to the reusability property, that is a inheritance property, we can build the smaller system, small program into a large system. Okay, then come for the object oriented concept, that is small software complexity can be easily managed with this sub. It is easily managed. Software complexity can be easily managed. While it is possible to incorporate all these features in an object-oriented system, their importance is also depends on the type of the project which we are going to develop and preference of the programmer. There are a number of issues that need to be tackled to reap some of the benefits which are defined. Okay. For example, libraries must be available for reuse. The technology is still developing and current products may be superseded quickly, and strict control and protocols need to be developed if reuse is not to be compromised. Developing a software that is easy to use make it hard to build. It is hoped that the object oriented programming tools would help to manage this problem. Okay, so that is about the benefits, that is the advantages of using this object oriented programming concepts. Come for the applications. Applications is nothing but what, in where all we are going to apply these object oriented features, and we are going to implement the development of the softwares with the use of these object oriented concepts, with the properties or the concepts of your object oriented program. So these object oriented has become one of the programming buzzword today. There appears to be a great deal of excellent excitement and interest among the software engineer in using the object oriented program. Applications of this object-oriented programming are beginning to gain the importance in many areas. The most popular application of object-oriented programming is now it has been in the area where the user interface design such as Windows. Hundreds of windowing systems have been developed using this OOP technique. So since the implementation is very easy with the use of this object-oriented program, we are going to use this object-oriented programming concept much easier than the other programming concepts. Okay, so since the Windows is a user-friendly software, we are going to use this object-oriented programming technique to develop the Windows. Hundreds of windowing systems are being developed using the object-oriented programming techniques. Hmm? So real business are often much more complex and contain many more objects with the complicated attributes and methods. Object-oriented programming is useful in these types of applications because it can simplify a complex problem. Okay, and the promising areas of this application of object program, it includes real-time systems, simulation and modeling, object-oriented databases, hypertext, hypermedia, expert text. Okay, artificial intelligence and expert systems, neural network and in parallel programming, and decision support and office automation systems, and their applications is also in a CAD CAM designing of the software. The richness of this object-oriented programming environment will enable the software industry to improve not only the quality of the software systems but also its productivity. As I already discussed that it increases the productivity, it increases the quality of the software. Okay, and this object-oriented technology is certainly changing the way the software engineers think, analyze, design and implement the systems. So this object-oriented programming has been invented to overcome the drawback of the procedure-oriented program. Okay, it employs on bottom-up approach programming concept. It treats data as a critical element in the program development and does not allow it to allow freely around the system. It ties data more closely to the functions that operate on it, and the data structure is called a class, and this feature is also called as the which helps the data encapsulation. Okay, in hope a problem is considered as a collection of number of entities called objects. Objects are instance of classes. Insulation of data from direct access by the program is called data hiding. Data abstraction refers to the putting together essential features without including the background details. Inheritance is a process by which objects of one class acquire the properties of the objects of the another class. Okay, so there are some more applications. Technology has gained importance in almost all the areas of computing, including the real-time business systems. Okay, so now this object-oriented technology offers several benefits over the conventional programming methods. The most important being is the inheritance, that is a reusability of the existing code. Now the other part which we want to discuss is about the object oriented languages. I told Java is a pure object oriented programming language, and C++ is a extended conventional language, which supports both procedure oriented program as well as the object oriented program. Okay, now this object oriented programming languages, I can say it is not a right of any particular language like structured programming language. Hoop concept can be implemented using the language like a structured programming. Hoop concepts can be implemented using the language like C and Pascal. Programming becomes clumsy and may generate confusion when the program grows large. A language that is specially designed to support the object-oriented concept makes it easier to implement them. The language should support several of the object-oriented concepts to claim that they are object-oriented depending upon the features they support. They can be classified into the following two categories. One is object-based programming language. The other one is object-oriented programming language. Okay. Object-based programming is a style of programming that primarily supports the encapsulation and object identity. And the major features of this object-based programming is about the, I told now, data encapsulation, data hiding, automatic initialization, and clear of the objects, and operator overloading. Languages that support programming with objects are said to be object-based programming language. They do not support the inheritance and the dynamic binding. So ADA is a typical object-based programming language. ADA is an example of object-based language. So object-oriented programming incorporates all of object-based programming features along with the two additional features, namely inheritance and dynamic binding. Object-oriented programming can therefore be characterized by the statement object-based features plus inheritance plus dynamic binding will be is equal to your object-oriented programming concept. Okay, languages that supports these features like C++, Smalltalk, okay, Object, Pascal, and Java. Okay, there are large number of object-based and object-oriented programming languages. Okay, like Simula, Smalltalk, Object C, C++, okay, Object Pascal, Turbo Pascal, Eiffel, and Java. So when you take some of the characteristics of the object-oriented programming languages, say we call the binding. Okay. So the dynamic binding will be supported by Simula, right? Object C, C++, right? Object Pascal, and the Java. right? So they support the dynamic binding property. Now, so when we are going to take the polymorphism, all the languages are going to support the polymorphism. Even data hiding property. When it comes to object, then we always give the class, right? Whenever we are going to create a class, it always going to create the private section of the data. When we, once it is declared as a private section of the data, then then we call it as the data hiding property. Concurrency, inheritance. Say ADA will not support because it is an object based language. Okay, ADA is the is a language which does not support the data hiding property. Sorry, inheritance property. So the rest of the languages, they're all supporting the inheritance because they're the object programming language. Okay, so they are called as a object oriented programming language. Okay, now the multiple inheritance is not supported by Simula, is not supported by ADA, and multiple inheritance is not supported by Java. Okay, because Java will not support the uh, Java will not support the what I can say multiple inheritance. Okay, now the object libraries, the not much. Now the pure object oriented programming languages are the pure object oriented programming languages are Simula, Smalltalk, okay, Eiffel and Java are the pure object oriented programming languages, right? The object based languages are ADA, okay, that is a object. Others are extended conventional languages. The others are extended conventional languages means, say now ADA, C++, Objective C, Object Pascal, Turbo Pascal are all conventional languages, right? ADA is only the language which is a object based language. Okay, now all the languages provide for polymorphism and data hiding. However, many of them do not provide the facilities for concurrency, persistence, and generosity. Okay, Eiffel, ADA, and C++ provides generic facility, which is an important construct for supporting the reusability property, that is a inheritance property. However, the persistence is a process of storing objects is not fully supported by any of them. In in Smalltalk, though the entire current execution state can be saved to disk, yet the individual objects cannot be saved to an external file. Simula is one of the oldest object-oriented programming language, though it has spent most of its life in research environment. Commercially, C++ and Java are the most prominent object-oriented programming languages that have found extensive usage in application development for the CAD/CAM designing, real-time system, artificial intelligence, expert systems, parallel programming, etc. The use of these particular languages depends on the characteristics and requirement of an application, organizational impact of the choice, and reuse of the existing program. C++ has now become the most successful practical general purpose object oriented programming language because it supports both procedure oriented as well as a object oriented language, and it is widely used in industry today. Why? Because it supports all the both the procedure oriented and it also has the pointer concept, okay, where we cannot find that pointer concept in the Java, right? Java will not support the pointers and multiple inheritance, whereas C++ supports the pointer concept and even the um, multiple inheritance. So that's why C++ is popular. Okay, Java may be useful for the this one what Java is going to be useful for our applets, that is the internet browsing programming. But so when it comes to the procedure oriented program and the pointer concept, this C++ is a one extended convention language which is popular compared to the other languages like Object C, Object Pascal, Turbo Pascal, Eiffel, okay, and the Simula. So these are all the object oriented programming languages. So these are all about the features of object oriented programming. It is a concepts whatever we have studied, and the benefits of these features. So what is the benefits that we have? Then the next is about the applications where we are going to apply their actual use of these features in the object orient in the maybe Windows operating system or the user friendly operating system or the database, that is a database management systems, right? These are all called as these are all are the main important features of your object oriented program and applications. And there are two kinds of language. One is object based, the other one is object oriented, right? Object based is only it is having the few features which does not support the inheritance and dynamic binding, whereas your object oriented programming is going to support all the features of the object based language plus the inheritance, reusability and the dynamic binding. Okay, so it is called as a it is a the all about the object oriented programming concepts. As we know that this is a the fifth generation language, okay, sorry, fourth generation language, sorry, this is a fourth generation language. Okay, previously it is machine level language, then after that machine level language in the first generation, in the second generation the assembly level language, and third generation it is a procedure oriented programming language, and in the fourth generation they started using the object oriented programming language because of the some of the drawbacks which we have in the procedure oriented programming, like it does not give much importance for the data, it gives more importance for the procedures, right? And there is no security for the data in the procedure oriented programming, and it will take lot of time to implement the lot of code need to be written in case of the procedure oriented programs, right? When we are going to use the object oriented concept, we are able to create a very excellent features for the user friendly softwares. That's why we started using the that is the fourth generation, and the fifth generation language is AI, which is under the research. As you people already know that the AI language is artificial intelligence language which is going to support the machine, the computer itself to work like a human being. Okay, by taking some decisions on its own, it need not to wait for the user, human being, to intervene, right? So that is all about the the procedure oriented and the object oriented programming language, and it supports the AI language. Some of the AI language is also be written with the use of the object oriented programming technique itself, and we are going to apply this OOPs concept even in the object AI language and the expert systems, neural networking and parallel programming also. Okay, that's that why I told is the fifth generation language AI is because All your OOP concepts have been implemented even in the AI language. Okay. So next class I will do the I will start on the Java. Okay. So because your module 2 is having the Java concept.